to Stories for Change, Community Members Raise Their Voices. In this video series, we interview community members about their stories regarding school mental health in higher education, supportive housing, and mental health needs of veterans. Through these interviews, we hope to empower listeners to take legislative action with mental health, promote mental health and wellness, and end stigma and discrimination. My name is Samantha, and I'm a master's level macro social work student partnering with MHANYS on this project. I am excited for Yolanda Robano Gross to join us. Yolanda is the CEO of Options for Community Living. Yolanda, could you tell us a little bit about yourself regarding your role with the supportive housing community?
Sure. Thank you for having me, Samantha. So I am also a social worker by trade. I have a LMSW and then a master's in healthcare administration. Options has been around serving Long Island for 41 years. We serve some of the neediest individuals and families through housing and other programs, but today we're talking about supportive housing, and that's one of our larger programs. My role here as the CEO is to provide oversight for all of the various programs. The directors of the programs report up to me to make sure that the budget balances, to make sure that our programs are operationally sound, to make sure that all of our clients are being served in the most independent way possible, and to kind of keep all the different plates spinning so that the programs can run on a day-to-day basis.
Wonderful, and that does sound like a lot of plate spinning. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Yolanda. So whether it is from the perspective of someone working with people who require supportive housing, a member of the supportive housing community, your personal life, or a combination, what makes mental health important to you?
Well, mental health should be important to all of us. I think that's a message that has to get out there. And regardless of the severity or of the day-to-day struggles, we all have had a day when we struggle with our mental health. And for some of us, we're able to bounce back pretty quickly. And for others, they need extra support. But we all have that day, when things look a little grayer than normal. If you would go up and down your block and knock on the doors, the numbers will bear out that someone on your block is either receiving treatment for or struggling with or in recovery for mental health. I mean, those numbers just are what they are. You may not know that because it's their own personal information versus someone who maybe gets services through an agency where they shouldn't, but people tend to find out sometimes. But these issues are important, and our mental health reacts with our physical health and vice versa. I mean, we've all had that day when you just don't have the head to get up out of bed. And even though physically you feel fine, you just don't have the steam to get up. So making sure that our mental health is clear and strong, and some people manage that with exercise, and some people manage that by reading or volunteering or wherever their activity is or wherever they channel that energy. But that is equally as important as managing our physical health. They feed off of each other.
Absolutely, Yolanda. Thank you. It's not only is it important for supportive housing, but I love the perspective that you shared that mental health is basically the same as having a sick day for physical health, and everybody has mental health. It's just, and sometimes we struggle with our mental health, and, it could be anyone.
Yeah.
It could be your neighbor, it could be you. And just as physical health might change with the seasons, mental health might change with the seasons. And it's so important to take care of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So thank you for that. Okay, so MHANYS' 5 reasons to support supportive housing and mental health include: sufficient housing capacity supports community-based recovery. The risk for experiencing homelessness increases without supportive housing. 40,000 New Yorkers rely on supportive housing in order to live independently in the community. Current funding levels have not kept pace with inflation, and providers are at risk of closing, and sufficient housing capacity avoids more costly settings. So what other reasons do you see that mental health is important in supportive housing?
So those reasons capture an awful lot. Um, that there are some very important facts there. Um, Housing, well, we say in our world that housing is healthcare. And if you think about it, if you don't know where you're laying your head at night, there's really nothing else you can focus on. You can't talk to me about my SNAP benefits or filling out this paperwork to get other benefits I'm entitled to if I am going to be sleeping outside in the elements, or if I'm going to be waiting for a bed at a shelter, or hoping that a friend will lend me a couch, or a car to sleep in. So, that's really key to our situation. So housing is our healthcare, and we really have to remember that. We have to remember that there's stigma involved, that at this point in our life, I can't understand. We're in 2023. And, at Options, we deal with three very large populations of our community, but probably people that are among the most stigmatized. We deal with the mental health population, the HIV population, and people that are homeless or at risk for homelessness. We're in 2023. No one has asked for any of these things. No one wants any of these things. The stigma connected to this at this point in a world is unfathomable to me still. So a big part of this, I think, is education. We need to educate people. Ask questions, and if you're not sure, call someone like me, call one of my peers. Ask the case managers that are out there on the street. They get it. They know what's involved. There's a face change, and I don't mean literal, but that needs to come to these populations, and that the world needs to understand. People with mental health are parents and their spouses and their siblings, and they have educations and jobs, and they go to school, and they might be sitting at the next desk. It's not always, and it certainly is a part of the population, but it's not always the stereotypical person we think of when we think of someone with a mental illness. So that's really important, to kind of change that face, to look at things from a very different perspective. And certainly, to speak to the funding, it's important so we can run the programs, and so that we can maintain our individuals in a respectful, dignified manner. It's also important that we have staff like yourself that are New Yorkers and are going to come out of school with their bachelor's or their master's degrees, with some loans, because that's what happens. College is expensive, and we want young people to stay on in New York, and we want people that are educated and excited about working with our individuals to stay and work with them. And to do that, we have to pay them a living wage, and a wage that allows them to live on Long Island, which is an expensive place to live. So one can't come without the other. So the funding has to increase so that we can pay our staff a fair wage and allow our individuals to have the right people to help them on their road to recovery.
Absolutely. And it's so interesting how it all connects. And really, everyone is affected by this issue. So, especially here on Long Island, which doesn't encompass all of New York State. But of course, I myself, being from Long Island, completely understand it is expensive to live here. And without paying the staff a living wage, we can't live here. And then we might need some, housing support,
Mhm.
to help the people that we want to help in supportive housing.
I
So,
staff that have to work multiple jobs, and I
yes,
remember doing that. I certainly did also. But if I have someone that's working 2 or 3 jobs, then are they at the top of their game when they're out helping our individuals? If I can pay them a
absolutely.
better wage, they might not have to do that.
Yeah. And just as you said before, it's all about security and knowing where to lay your head at night. Your mental health is going to suffer, whether you're a staff or a person in supportive housing, if you don't know where you're going to, where home is.
100%.
Yeah. Thank you. So, how can the promotion of mental health and wellness benefit supportive housing? We talked a little bit about this, but do you have any other examples or a story you'd like to share?
Yeah, we take care of and we work with a lot of special people. A lot of whom don't always have the connection to their families anymore, and sometimes that's, to their own situation. Um, it's important to connect with people, and I'm not telling anybody to put themselves at risk or do anything dangerous. What I'm saying is this: you don't know where somebody is on any given day when they wake up. So we live in a society that most part thinks, keep your head down, you walk straight, you don't look, you go about your own business. When you make eye contact with somebody, um, you need to say hello. You need to just say, good morning, how you doing? Um, Sometimes that simple act of kindness can be exactly what someone needs, and it could change their decision for the day. I say to my staff all the time, and sometimes people call randomly, and sometimes people get to the wrong extension. They get to my extension all the time. And the answer is not, you're not our client or you're not on my caseload, because you don't know what it took to get someone to the point where they're going to make that call. And it might be the very last call that they had in them. So the answer is, you know what? Hang on. I may not be the right person, but if you stay with me, I'll look at the directory. I'll get you the right person. And if the right person isn't here at options, let me call one of my peers at this agency or that agency that may specialize in what you need. And let me give you that soft handoff. Because to say to someone who's in crisis, and you can't always hear when someone's in crisis, to say to someone who's in crisis that, I'm sorry, as politely as you could say it, I'm sorry, it's the wrong number, or you're not on my caseload or whatever, and hang up the phone, that person may say, that was my last ditch effort. I mean, I, not too long ago, went to visit a client of ours who was in the hospital, and a friend of hers was visiting him. A friend of hers was visiting her. And I walked in and she said, Yolanda, this is so-and-so, and so-and-so, this is Yolanda. And, she's from Options. And because what do you do when you meet somebody? I said, hello, nice to meet you. And I held out my hand. He shook it, but he kind of pulled back a little bit. And I thought, oof, COVID, some people still not shaking. Maybe I overstepped. And I said, oh, I'm so sorry. I said, it's just habit. And he said to me, no, it's not that. He said, do you know how long it's been since someone shook my hand? And I was kind of taken aback by that. And I said, excuse me? And he said, well, I'm street homeless. I have some issues. There's not a lot of people, and this is what he said, there's not a lot of people that look like you that come up to me and shake my hand. So here's something that, you and I do every day, right? You meet someone, you're introduced, you greet them in one way or the other. And in business, you shake hands. And yet to this gentleman, it was something that he hadn't experienced in years. And that simple human touch, which is something that we so take for granted, was such a huge deal to this man. We have another gentleman that calls me once a year on the anniversary of his sobriety to brag to me about his case manager. He's one of our Nassau County clients, to brag to me about his case manager and how wonderful she is, but also to say that, going to the, housing is healthcare thing, that if Options hadn't housed him and he didn't have this housing program, he wouldn't have been able to stay sober, because he wouldn't have been able to focus on himself and of all the things that he needed to maintain his sobriety. So his housing directly to him links to his ability to remain sober.
Well, those are such incredible stories, and they both really just speak to how much housing is healthcare, as you said, and how much mental wellness and supportive housing are linked and what that can mean to someone.
Yeah.
Those are such powerful stories. Thank you for sharing them.
We're very lucky. I say to So when staff comes to options, I do as much as I can. I try and do everyone's final interview. I like them to know the culture here, how we do things. I like to lay eyes on them. I like them to be able to lay eyes on me. And I say to people all the time, especially people working in the houses, you need to understand. On their best day, no one ever wakes up and said, oh, I want to live in a group home. I want to live in supportive housing, as beautiful as they are. So there is a level of dignity that we need to afford these people. And we have to remember that we're working in their homes. It's not the other way around. And it's a big deal. I don't know that I'd always want staff around me or two housemates that I didn't pick. And I'm not always so thrilled at the housemates I do pick. So, there's a lot of issues there, and to manage my own physical health and my own mental health. So we need to be very careful, to be very respectful. These are adults and they deserve that level of respect and that level of dignity. We recently had a long-term client pass, and two of his long-term staff and I were there and helped make the decision to let him go. And I say this way deliberately. We had the privilege to be there with him when it was his time to pass. We become surrogate families to these people. We become service providers. We are a lot of things to a lot of our individuals, and we do it proudly. And it's a very important thing for people to know, especially anybody that is looking to be in this field. It carries with it a lot of responsibility, and responsibility that you want to be proud to carry out.
Absolutely. And you and the folks at Options are doing such incredible work. You can just tell the passion in your voice, and all of the folks that you are representative for at the moment for MHANYS and supportive housing are doing such important work. And you really are making it so clear that it really does connect to people's wellness in general. It's really incredible what you do. So thank you for that. I do have one last question for you.
Sure.
Do you have any advice for the supportive housing population, supportive housing staff, or supporters on how they can advocate for mental health in their community?
For the supportive housing population, I would say connect, reach out to places like Options. We have other sister agencies. Reach out. There are services there. I had an elderly woman on the phone the other day, quite by accident, I think, but she's entitled to more than she realized. So there are experts out there. Pick up the phone, call. If we can't help you, we'll find somebody that can. And keep calling till you get to someone that can, because someone will. To staff or potential staff like yourself or new grads, I will tell you, for all those social workers out there or would-be social workers, don't let people say, oh, you're such a good person, you're going to do good work. It's all true, but you're also going to have a very fulfilling career where you can make changes in policy and systems and people's lives. So don't let people dissuade you from this world. It's a wonderful world to be privileged to be a part of. And if anybody wants to speak to me about that, I've been doing this for a long time. I'd be happy to speak to someone. We take a lot of students here, so I'd be thrilled to speak to people about it. To anybody in the community, if you'd like to find out more, if you'd like to kind of see behind the door, there's a lot of NIMBYism still out there. So for those who may not know the term, not in my backyard, everybody thinks these things are great as long as they're over there. And I think a lot of that comes with that people don't have the knowledge. So come, I will show you around gladly. I will let you in behind the curtains, so to speak. And maybe you want to volunteer. We have an awesome thrift shop in Ronkonkoma, and you want to volunteer or donate, or, we're always looking for new board members. So maybe that's out there. And same thing to our legislators. I don't think you, ladies and gentlemen, realize the power you wield and the impact you can have for our individuals. The money means a lot to maintain the programs, to maintain the right level of staff. And again, come look. come sit and talk to the people that you're representing, because they vote and they work and they're your constituents and they're out there. So come see it. I know I would gladly take people. I know my colleagues would be happy to take people. This is the world of mental health and the world of supportive housing. When we see the progress and when we see people achieve goals, and even to the point of the gentleman I just spoke at, when we see someone pass after a supported life well lived, it's a good world to live in. So it just needs the support from the powers that be around it.
Absolutely amazing, Yolanda. Thank you so much. And thank you for sharing your story with us. And I thank the audience for joining us today. Below this video will be the link to the Legislative Action Community, where you can take action regarding mental health and supportive housing and other issues, just as Yolanda just talked about today.
Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a good one.
You too.
Bye, everyone.